Ok, muchachos, vamos a hablar de el presente perfecto del indicativo. Presente perfecto del indicativo. All right, I'll break into English here. Present perfect indicative is a verb tense that is actually really common and super easy because it works very much like the English version of this. Okay, so we've talked about preterite, we've talked about imperfect. Now, the present perfect is going to be a structure where we talk about what has or hasn't happened either recently or within a certain time frame. So I'm going to give you a couple of examples and let you figure out what I'm doing here. Okay? Esta semana yo he comido en un restaurante. Okay? Esta semana yo he comido en un restaurante. This week I have eaten in a restaurant. Okay? Este mes nosotros hemos visto 3 películas. This month we have watched 3 movies. Last one. Este año no has visitado a tus abuelos. Este año no has visitado a tus abuelos. All right. This year, you haven't visited your grandparents. Okay, 3 examples. What did I do with those sentences? What I did basically is I told you what has or hasn't happened. So I have eaten, yo he comido. We have watched, nosotros hemos visto, and you haven't visited, no has visitado. So that's the present perfect. It's basically the exact same as what happens in English to tell what has or hasn't happened. How do you build these? How do you construct it? Well, everything is built off of the verb haber. And haber literally means to have. Okay, I know that you know tener means to have, but this is a different version of this question of this verb. So you have to remember that haber also means to have. And you're familiar with this verb from Spanish 1 when you were talking about the verb I. So en mi casa hay 3 recámaras. In my house, there are 3 bedrooms. Okay, so in other words, my house has 3 bedrooms. Okay, so let's talk about haber. So haber is going to be the auxiliary verb that is the first part of this compound verb. So we'll talk about the conjugations. Yo, the conjugation for haber is going to be he, tú, has, él o ella o usted, ha, nosotros hemos, vosotros, you won't be quizzed on it, but it's good to know in case you go to Spain, habéis, and ellos, ellas, and ustedes, han. Okay, so that's the first part of the verb. That's the equivalent of I have, you have, she has, we have. When we're talking about have done something, have seen something, have played something. The second part of this verb is going to be the past participle. So let's build this over here. Past participle. And the past participle is basically just that part of the verb that tells you eaten, played, run, walked, seen, any of those verbs that go in tandem with the form of haber. Okay, so let's take a couple of very famous, very common AR verbs. Nadar, trabajar, cantar. Okay, so those are the AR verbs. I'm going to give you the past participle version of each of these. All right, and you should be able to tell me what the construction is. So I would say, yo he nadado, nosotros hemos trabajado y tú has cantado. Okay, nadado, trabajado, cantado. So what's the rule? Well, for AR verbs, oh, let's do this. Drop the AR, add ado. Okay, drop the AR, add ado. Simple. Okay, same thing here. Hado, hado. So, trabajado, cantado. What about ER and IR verbs? Okay. Comer, vivir. Let's see. I'm not going to use escribir, vivir, comer, vivir. Vivir, and how about vestir? How about pedir? Okay, so we got a bunch of ER verbs. Let's do correr here. ER verbs and IR verbs. All right, so I'm going to give you the past participle of each of these, and you figure out before I get to it what the rule is for making the past participle. Comer would be comido. Correr would be corrido. Vivir would be vivido. Vestir would be vestido. Pedir would be pedido. Okay, pretty straightforward. All right, so the rule for this is going to be for ER and IR verbs, drop the ending, add ido. Okay, so just about any ER and IR verb is going to follow that rule. Drop the ending ER, IR, and add ido. So we could practice this, and we could say, how would I say I have listened? So first thing you do is you go up here, you say I have, you say yo he, right? And then listen is the verb escuchar. So escuchar is going to be an ado ending. You put those two together and you say yo he escuchado. How would you say you have run? Okay, you go up here and you say you have, tú has. Run is an ER verb, so here's the ending for ERs. Okay, and you say tú has corrido. How would you say we have spoken? Nosotros hemos. Hablar is an AR verb, so you go over here and you say, drop the AR, add the ado, and you say, nosotros hemos hablado. Okay, pretty straightforward. You can add time statements to say when you have or haven't done these things. Esta semana yo he manejado mucho. Este mes nosotros no hemos visitado a nuestros abuelos. So any of those time statements really give you some clarity about when something has or hasn't happened. Last thing that's going to be a little bit tricky, because there's always something that's a little bit tricky. There's a bunch of irregulars, and the best way for you to memorize these irregulars is to go on Memrise, do your Unit 2, a Level 2, because that has a bunch of the irregulars. So the usual suspects are irregulars, right? Ser, let's see, ver, abrir, poner, escribir, hacer, decir. There's several more. You're going to put these in your grammar folder, and you're also going to put these in your, you're also going to practice these on Memrise. So just remember that there's several more. These aren't all of them. But this just gives you an idea of how many irregulars there are. So ser, it actually does kind of follow the rule. You drop the ER, you add ido, right? So he sido, ver, visto, abrir, abierto, poner, puesto, escribir, escrito. Okay, escrito, hacer is hecho, decir is dicho. Okay, romper is roto. So there's a bunch of irregulars right there. I think there's 7 irregulars there that you have to memorize. There's another way to get around those. You have to memorize those irregulars. Again, use that tool that I put on Memrise for you, Level 2 of Unit 2. So it's a pretty straightforward tense. It's very much like English. You take your form of haber, which means to have, not like tener. There's a different form of to have. And then you take your past participle, which are these verbs. For ARs, most of the time it's going to be ado. For ERs and IRs, most of the time it's going to be ido. Okay? Let me know if you have any questions. I'm going to put a couple of practice activities online for you to make sure you get this down. Okay, hasta luego.